Welcome back, English learners. Today's episode is going to be a game changer. Have you ever listened to someone speak English and thought, wow, they sound so natural and effortless, while you feel like your English sounds too slow, stiff, or even robotic? If that sounds familiar, then this episode is for you.
That's right. Today we're revealing the secret to speaking English naturally. And trust me, this is something most English courses don't teach you. You might have learned grammar rules, vocabulary lists, and sentence structures. But no one tells you how to actually sound smooth and confident in real conversations.
Exactly. Natural English isn't just about words and grammar, it's about how you say them, the expressions you use, and the little details that make you sound fluent. By the end of this episode, you'll know exactly how to make your English sound more natural, fluent, and effortless.
So grab your notebook, get comfortable, and let's dive in.
Let's start with a big question. Why do some English learners sound unnatural or robotic when they speak? If you've ever spoken English and felt like something was off, maybe your sentences sounded too formal, too stiff, or just not like how native speakers talk, then you're not alone. This is one of the most common struggles learners face. They study for years, memorize thousands of words, and still, when they speak, it doesn't sound smooth or natural. They feel like their English is too structured, too mechanical, and lacks the rhythm and flow of native speech. This can be really frustrating because you know the grammar, you know the vocabulary, but when it comes to actual conversations, something just doesn't sound right. You might find yourself pausing too much, overthinking, or feeling like your speech is too slow compared to native speakers. Sophia, why does this happen?
The main reason is that most learners focus too much on textbook English and not enough on how English is actually spoken in real life. Think about it. Most people learn English from grammar books, school lessons, and formal classes. And while those things are useful, they don't always teach you how to sound natural in real conversations. Textbooks often use full, grammatically correct sentences that are rarely spoken in everyday life. They teach polite, structured, and proper ways to say things, but they don't always reflect the way people actually talk. For example, in a textbook, you might learn that when you greet someone, you should say, "Good morning, how do you do?" That sounds polite and formal, but how often do you hear people say that in real conversations? Not very often. In real life, people say, "Hey, how's it going?" or just, "Morning." It's shorter, it's more relaxed, and it sounds natural. Another example, a textbook might teach you to say, "I am unable to attend the meeting today." But a fluent speaker would simply say, "I can't make it." The meaning is exactly the same, but the way it's spoken is completely different. This is why some learners sound unnatural. They are speaking English the way it's written in textbooks, but not the way it's actually spoken in daily life. Adam, why do you think learners struggle to make this shift?
One of the biggest reasons is that many learners feel safer using formal English because that's what they were taught. They think that if they speak formally, they won't make mistakes. And while formal English is useful in certain situations, like business meetings or academic writing, it's not how people talk in casual, everyday conversations. Let's imagine a real-life situation. You walk into a coffee shop and you want to order a coffee. If you follow a textbook, you might say, "Good morning, sir. I would like to request a cup of coffee, please." Technically, that's correct. But does that sound natural? Not really. A fluent speaker would just say, "Can I get a coffee?" or "I'll have a coffee, please." It's simple, direct, and natural. Another thing that holds learners back is that they are always thinking about grammar while speaking. They hesitate because they want to make sure their sentence is 100% correct before they say it. But fluent speakers don't do that. They don't think about grammar when they talk. They just speak. When you focus too much on constructing a perfect sentence in your head before speaking, it slows you down. You hesitate, you overthink, and by the time you're ready to speak, the conversation has already moved on. Sophia, what can learners do to start speaking more naturally?
The first step is to start paying attention to how people really speak. You have to expose yourself to real spoken English, not just textbook English. One of the best ways to do this is by watching movies, TV shows, YouTube videos, or listening to podcasts where people speak naturally. Notice the words they use, the phrases they say, and how different it is from the formal English you learned in school. Another great tip is to practice using shorter, more natural sentences. Many learners think they need to use long, complex sentences to sound smart, but fluent speakers often use short, simple sentences. Instead of saying, "I am extremely delighted to make your acquaintance," just say, "Nice to meet you." Instead of saying, "I will be arriving at the station at precisely 4 p.m., just say, "I'll be there at 4. The shorter version sounds more natural and more like real English. Adam, do you have any practical exercises learners can do to start making their English sound more natural?
Yes, and this is something that can completely transform the way you speak. If you want to sound more natural, you need to start imitating native speakers. A great way to do this is called shadowing. Shadowing means listening to a native speaker and repeating exactly what they say, copying their tone, speed, and rhythm. For example, let's say you're watching a TV show and a character says, "That movie was amazing. I totally loved it." Instead of just understanding it, pause the video and repeat it out loud. Try to match their tone, their pronunciation, and the way they connect their words. This helps you train your brain and your mouth to produce English the way it's actually spoken. If you practice this daily, even for just 5 minutes, you will start to notice a big difference in how natural your English sounds. Sophia, let's give our listeners a quick challenge they can do today.
Yes, here's a simple but powerful challenge. Take a phrase that you normally say in a very formal way and find a more natural way to say it. Then practice saying the new version out loud until it feels comfortable. For example, if you usually say, "I appreciate your assistance," try saying, "Thanks for your help." If you usually say, "May I request some water?" just say, "Can I get some water?" And don't just do this once. Make it a habit. Every time you speak English, ask yourself, am I using a textbook phrase, or am I saying it how people really talk? If you start making these small changes, your English will quickly start to sound more natural.
And remember, learning to sound natural doesn't happen overnight. It's about exposing yourself to real English, noticing the differences, and practicing every day. And in the next chapter, we're going to take this even further. We'll show you exactly how to replace textbook phrases with real-life expressions so that you can start speaking English with confidence and ease.
So stay with us, because in the next part, we're unlocking the secret to sounding like a fluent, confident speaker. One of the biggest differences between fluent speakers and English learners is the way they use natural expressions in daily conversations. Many learners focus on proper sentence structure and formal grammar, which is great for writing. But when it comes to speaking, using too many textbook phrases can make you sound unnatural. Native speakers don't always speak in full, perfectly structured sentences. They use shorter, more natural expressions, contractions, and informal words that help their speech flow smoothly. The problem is, most learners aren't exposed to these common phrases in their English classes because textbooks teach formal, structured language. But when you hear native speakers talking, you realize that real conversations are much more relaxed and dynamic. Adam, can you give some examples of how textbook phrases compare to real, everyday English?
Absolutely, Sophia. Let's look at a few examples of how textbook English differs from real-life English. If a learner is speaking in a very formal way, they might say, "I do not know." Now, while this is grammatically correct, a native speaker would probably say, "I don't know." Another example, if someone is very tired, a textbook might teach you to say, "I am very tired." But in real life, people say, "I'm exhausted. I'm so tired. I'm drained." Or let's say it's raining heavily. A textbook phrase would be, "It is raining heavily outside." But in real English, you'll hear people say, "It's pouring. It's coming down hard. It's raining like crazy." The meaning is the same, but one version sounds stiff and robotic, while the other sounds smooth and natural. Sophia, Why is it so important for learners to use these natural expressions?
It's important because these are the phrases that fluent speakers actually use in real conversations. If you stick to textbook English, your speech will sound a bit unnatural, and sometimes it can even create a small barrier in communication. People might understand you, but they'll also notice that your English sounds formal and structured, rather than casual and fluent. But when you start using common expressions and conversational phrases, your English starts to flow more naturally. You'll feel more confident, and conversations will feel easier because you won't be overthinking every word. Another big reason is that native speakers use shorter, simpler phrases to communicate ideas quickly. If you're speaking in long, overly structured sentences, it can slow down the conversation and make it feel less natural. Adam, what's a good way for learners to start adding these common expressions into their English?
A great way to start is by noticing and copying how native speakers talk. One of the best things you can do is listen to English movies, TV shows, podcasts, or real conversations and pay close attention to the phrases that people use. For example, instead of saying, "I am very hungry," listen to how native speakers say it in real life. You might hear them say, "I'm starving. I could eat a horse. I'm so hungry I can't wait to eat." The more you expose yourself to real spoken English, the more natural your speech will become. Sophia, do you have any practical exercises that learners can do to practice using these expressions?
Yes, here's a simple but powerful exercise. Step 1. Pick a few common expressions that native speakers use all the time. For example, instead of "I am fine, thank you," say "I'm good," or "I'm doing great." Instead of "I do not understand," say "I don't get it." Instead of "That is very funny," say "That's hilarious." Step 2. Practice using these expressions out loud, not just in your head. When you wake up in the morning, instead of thinking, "I am feeling very tired," say out loud, "I'm so tired today." When you're watching a movie and hear a good phrase, pause the video and repeat it. Say it exactly like the native speaker did. The key is to actively practice speaking these phrases until they feel natural. Adam, should we give our listeners a challenge?
Absolutely. Here's a challenge for you. For the next 3 days, every time you speak in English, whether you're talking to yourself, practicing with a friend, or writing something, try to replace one formal phrase with a more natural one. For example, if you usually say, "I am going to the store," try saying, "I'm heading to the store." If you usually say, "This meal is very delicious," try saying, "This food is amazing." If you keep doing this daily, soon, it will become a habit, and your English will start sounding much more natural. Sophia, let's quickly summarize today's lesson.
Yes. Here's what we learned today. First, textbook English is different from real spoken English. If you use too many formal phrases, your speech might sound stiff or unnatural. Second, fluent speakers use shorter, simpler, and more relaxed expressions in everyday conversations. Instead of long, structured sentences, they speak in a way that's natural and fluid. Third, if you want to sound more natural, start copying the way native speakers talk. Listen to movies, podcasts, or real conversations and pay attention to the words and phrases that people actually use. And finally, practice using these expressions every day. Replace your formal textbook phrases with real conversational English, and soon it will become second nature. Adam, what's coming up next?
In the next chapter, we're going to talk about one of the biggest secrets to sounding more fluent, using contractions and connected speech. If you've ever wondered why native speakers talk so fast and why their words seem to blend together, don't worry. We'll break it all down for you in a way that's easy to understand. All right, English learners, so we have already talked about how textbook English can sometimes sound too formal and why it's important to use common expressions. But now, let's talk about one of the biggest reasons native speakers sound so smooth, fast, and natural: contractions and connected speech. Have you ever noticed that when native speakers talk, it feels like their words are blending together? It's almost like they're skipping certain sounds or connecting words in a way that makes them sound effortless. That's because real English is full of contractions and connected speech. It's not bad grammar, and it's not lazy speaking. It's just how English is actually spoken in the real world. Sophia, why do contractions and connected speech make such a huge difference in fluency?
They make a huge difference because this is how native speakers talk in everyday conversations. Many learners are taught to say each word separately and clearly, which is great when you're learning, but if you speak like that all the time, it sounds unnatural. For example, a textbook might teach you to say, "I am going to eat now." But in real life, no one says that. A native speaker would say, "I'm going to eat now." Let's look at another example. A textbook might say, "What do you want?" But in real conversations, people say, "What do you want?" And here's one more. Instead of saying, "Give me some water," people say, "Gimme some water." Adam, why do native speakers use contractions and connected speech so much?
Because it makes speech faster, smoother, and more natural. Think about it. When people talk, they're not focusing on perfect pronunciation of every word. They're communicating ideas quickly and efficiently. When native speakers connect words together, it actually makes sentences easier to say. Instead of stopping between each word, they let the sounds flow smoothly from one word to the next. Let's break this down with some real examples. Instead of, "I do not know," a native speaker says, "I don't know." Instead of, "Do you want to come?" they say, "Do you want to come?" Instead of, "Let me see," they say, "Let me see." It's not incorrect, it's just spoken English. Sophia, how can learners start using contractions and connected speech in their own conversations?
The first step is to become aware of contractions and connected speech whenever you listen to English. If you're watching a movie or listening to a podcast, pay attention to how words blend together and how native speakers shorten phrases. Then, start practicing these patterns yourself. Here are some of the most common contractions you should start using. Gonna, instead of going to, I'm gonna call him. Wanna, instead of want to, I wanna learn English. Gimme, instead of give me. Gimme a second. Lemme, instead of let me. Lemme check. Gotta, instead of got to, I gotta go now. Dunno, instead of do not know. I don't know what happened. Adam, do you have a simple exercise learners can do to start using contractions naturally?
Yes, and this exercise is super effective. It's called listen and repeat. Here's how it works. 1. Find a short video, movie scene, or podcast clip where people are speaking naturally. 2. Listen carefully and focus on how they connect their words. 3. Pause the video and repeat the sentence exactly how they said it. Copy their rhythm and contractions. For example, if you hear someone say, "I'm gonna grab a coffee," pause and say, "I'm gonna grab a coffee," exactly the way they did. This helps your brain and mouth get used to speaking naturally, just like fluent speakers do. Sophia, what's another way learners can practice connected speech?
Another great way is to practice speaking in phrases, not individual words. Many learners try to say each word separately and clearly, but fluent speakers think in groups of words. For example, instead of saying, "What are you going to do?" try saying it the way native speakers do. "What are you going to do?" Instead of, "I do not know," say, "I don't know." You don't need to memorize every contraction. Just start noticing them, practicing them, and using them when you speak. Adam, let's give our listeners a quick challenge.
Yes. Here's your challenge for today. For the next 3 days, whenever you speak English, try to replace one full phrase with a contraction or connected speech. For example, if you usually say, "I am going to call you," say, "I'm going to call you." If you usually say, "Do you want to go?" say, "Do you want to go?" If you do this every day, you'll train your brain to speak more naturally without even thinking about it. Sophia, let's quickly summarize today's key takeaways.
Absolutely. Here's what we covered today. First, contractions and connected speech are what make native English sound smooth and natural. Instead of pronouncing every word separately, fluent speakers blend words together. Second, common contractions include gonna, wanna, lemme, gimme, and dunno. These are used all the time in real conversations. Third, if you want to sound more natural, start practicing these contractions and connected speech patterns. Listen to native speakers, repeat after them, and try using these phrases in your daily conversations. And finally, the more you practice, the more automatic it will become. You won't have to think about it. Your English will just start flowing naturally.
All right, English learners. So far, we've talked about why some learners sound robotic, how to use common expressions, and how contractions make speech more natural. But now, let's talk about something that can instantly change the way you sound: intonation. Fluent English isn't just about the words you say, it's about how you say them. Intonation is what makes spoken English sound natural, interesting, and full of emotion. If you've ever felt like your voice sounds flat, dull, or robotic when you speak English, it's probably because you're not using enough intonation. Sophia, can you explain what intonation is and why it's so important?
Absolutely. Intonation is the rise and fall of your voice when you speak. Native speakers don't speak in a flat, monotone voice. They naturally change their pitch and tone to match their emotions, reactions, and meaning. Let's take a simple word like really. If you say it in a flat voice, really, it sounds boring and unexpressive. But if you raise your voice a little and stretch the sound, really, it sounds much more natural and expressive. You can use intonation to express different emotions with the same word. Surprise, really, doubt, really, sarcasm, oh really. The words are the same, but the intonation completely changes the meaning. Adam, why do so many learners struggle with intonation?
One big reason is that some languages don't use intonation in the same way as English. In many languages, sentences are spoken in a flat rhythm without much change in tone. But in English, intonation is everything. If you speak in a flat voice, it makes it harder for people to understand your emotions. For example, let's take a simple sentence. I don't know. If you say it with a flat tone, it sounds uninterested. I don't know. But if you use natural English intonation, it sounds more real. I don't know. Upward tone, like you're thinking, I don't know. Strong emphasis, maybe frustrated. I don't know. Correcting someone. See how the meaning changes depending on your tone? Sophia, what's a simple way learners can practice using intonation?
One of the best ways to improve your intonation is to listen to how native speakers talk and copy them. Here's an easy exercise. 1. Pick a short clip from a movie, TV show, or YouTube video. 2. Listen to how the speakers change their tone and rhythm. 3. Repeat what they say, copying their intonation exactly. For example, if a character in a movie says, "Oh my God, that's amazing," pay attention to how their voice goes up and down. Then, try saying it the same way. It's not just about learning words, it's about copying the way fluent speakers actually say them. Adam, can you give another way learners can practice intonation?
Yes. Another powerful exercise is called intonation exaggeration. A lot of learners feel uncomfortable using intonation at first because they think it sounds strange or unnatural. So here's the trick. Exaggerate your intonation on purpose. Take a simple sentence like, "What are you doing?" Now, say it in 3 different ways. Flat. What are you doing? Sounds robotic. Natural. What are you doing? Voice rises and falls naturally. Exaggerated. What are you doing? Over-the-top intonation. When you exaggerate it, your brain gets used to using stronger intonation. Then, when you speak normally, your speech will sound much more natural. Sophia, should we give our listeners a quick challenge to help them practice?
Yes. Here's your intonation challenge for today. Step 1. Pick a short sentence you use often. Step 2. Say it in 3 different ways: flat, natural, and exaggerated. Step 3. Record yourself and listen to how it sounds. For example, try saying, "Are you serious? That's amazing! I don't believe it." First, say them in a flat tone and notice how boring they sound. Then, say them naturally, and finally, exaggerate them. This will train your brain to use intonation automatically when you speak. Adam, let's summarize what we've learned today.
All right, here's what we covered in this chapter. First, intonation is what makes your speech sound natural and expressive. If you speak in a flat tone, it sounds robotic. Second, intonation can completely change the meaning of a sentence. The way you say "really" can show surprise, doubt, sarcasm, or excitement. Third, native speakers naturally use intonation to make their speech interesting and emotional. If you want to sound fluent, you need to do the same. And finally, you can train your intonation by copying native speakers, exaggerating your tone, and practicing different ways of saying the same sentence. All right, English learners. So far, we've talked about intonation, contractions, and using natural expressions. But now, let's talk about one of the most powerful tools for sounding fluent: filler words. Have you ever listened to native speakers and noticed that their speech doesn't always sound perfect? They pause, they hesitate, they use small words to fill in gaps. That's because real conversations aren't like scripted textbook dialogues. Fluent speakers don't speak in perfectly structured sentences. They use filler words to sound more natural and to keep conversations flowing. Sophia, can you explain what filler words are and why they're so important?
Absolutely. Filler words are small, common words that people use when they're thinking, hesitating, or organizing their thoughts. They don't add much meaning, but they make speech sound more natural and conversational. For example, let's say someone asks, "Do you like this movie?" If you answer in a very direct, textbook way, you might say, "Yes, I like this movie." But that sounds a bit too robotic, right? A fluent speaker would probably say something like, "Yeah, I mean, it's pretty good, you know." Those little words help buy time and make your speech sound smoother and more relaxed, just like native speakers. Adam, what are some of the most common filler words learners should know?
There are a few key filler words that fluent speakers use all the time. Here are some of the most common ones. Well, used to introduce an idea or start a response. "Well, I think that's a great idea." You know, used to connect ideas or check if someone understands. It's, kind of a complicated situation. Like, used to pause while thinking or add a casual tone. I was so surprised when I saw it. I mean, used to explain something or clarify. I mean, it's not bad, but it could be better. Or used when hesitating while speaking. I think we should go now. Sophia, can you give an example of how a sentence changes when we use filler words?
Yes. Let's take a simple sentence and compare a textbook version to a natural spoken English version. Textbook version: "I think that's a bad idea." Now, let's add some filler words to make it sound more real and conversational. "Well, I mean, I don't know, but I feel like that's not the best idea." See the difference? It sounds way more natural. Here's another example. Textbook version: "I don't understand." Natural version: I get what you're saying, but, I don't totally understand." When you listen to native speakers, you'll notice that they use these little words all the time without even thinking about it. Adam, how can learners practice using filler words naturally?
A great way to practice is to listen to real conversations, movies, TV shows, podcasts, YouTube videos, and pay attention to when speakers use filler words. Step 1. Pick a short clip where someone is speaking naturally. Step 2. Write down the filler words they use. Step 3. Try repeating the sentences exactly as they say them. For example, if you hear, "Well, I guess we could try that. I mean, it's not a bad idea." Pause the video and repeat it out loud. exactly the way they said it. Sophia, what's another simple way learners can practice this?
Another great way is to practice answering questions using filler words. If you're practicing alone, pick a random question and answer it using natural conversational English. For example, let's say the question is, "What do you like to do on weekends?" Instead of answering in a robotic way like, "I like to go shopping and watch movies." Try using filler words to make it sound more natural. Well, I mean, I usually just, hang out with friends or, watch a movie or something. The meaning is the same, but one version sounds much more natural. Adam, should we give our listeners a quick challenge?
Yes. Here's your filler word challenge for today. For the next 3 days, every time you practice speaking English, try to include at least one filler word in your response. For example, if someone asks you, "How was your weekend?" instead of saying, "My weekend was good," try saying, "Oh, well, yeah, it was good. I mean, we just went to the park and relaxed, you know?" You don't have to overuse them, but using them naturally and in the right moments will make your English sound more fluent and relaxed. Sophia, let's quickly summarize what we've learned today.
Yes. Here's what we covered in this chapter. First, filler words help you sound more natural and keep conversations flowing. They don't add meaning, but they help your speech sound less robotic. Second, native speakers use filler words all the time. Words like, well, like, I mean, and Third, using filler words can make your speech more relaxed, casual, and confident. Instead of saying, "I think that's a bad idea," a native speaker might say, "Well, I don't know. I mean, it's probably not the best idea."
All right, English learners. So far, we've covered intonation, contractions, and filler words, all of which help you sound more natural. But now, let's talk about one of the biggest fluency mistakes learners make: trying to speak in long, complex sentences. Many learners believe that to sound fluent, they need to use big words, complex grammar, and long sentences. But the truth is, fluent speakers actually keep their sentences short and simple. Sophia, why do shorter sentences make English sound more natural?
Because that's how people actually speak. Think about it. When you're having a conversation, do you have time to plan out long, detailed sentences? Not really. Fluent speakers talk in short, clear ideas that are easy to say and easy to understand. For example, a learner might try to say, "I would like to request a coffee, please." Now, this is grammatically correct, but does it sound natural? Not really. A fluent speaker would just say, "Can I get a coffee?" Or, "I'll have a coffee, please." It's the same meaning, but one version sounds formal and robotic, while the other sounds casual and natural. Adam, what's another example of this?
Let's take a look at another sentence. A textbook might teach you to say, "I was wondering if you could assist me in finding the nearest post office." Now, while this is polite and formal, no one actually talks like this in a normal conversation. A fluent speaker would just say, "Hey, where's the post office?" Or, "Can you help me find the post office?" Shorter sentences don't just sound more natural, they're also easier to say and understand. Sophia, why do learners often make the mistake of speaking in long, complicated sentences?
Because in school, learners are taught to focus on grammar, writing, and formal speech. Many English courses emphasize formal sentence structures, and students get used to writing in long, complex ways. But spoken English is different from written English. In a conversation, people don't have time to process long sentences. That's why native speakers break their speech into short, simple chunks. For example, instead of saying, "The weather today is exceptionally pleasant," making it a perfect day for an outdoor excursion, a native speaker would just say, "It's a nice day. Let's go outside." Shorter sentences help you speak faster, sound more fluent, and communicate more clearly. Adam, how can learners train themselves to speak in shorter sentences?
A great way to practice is to take long, complex sentences and break them into shorter, natural ones. Here's how you do it. Step 1. Find a long sentence. Step 2. rewrite it in a simpler way. Step 3. Say it out loud until it feels natural. Let's try one together. Original sentence. I am currently experiencing difficulty in understanding this particular concept. Now, let's make it shorter and more natural. I don't get it. Or, I don't understand. Sophia, can we give another example?
Sure. Here's a sentence that a learner might say. It would be greatly appreciated if you could provide me with some assistance. That's very formal and not how people actually talk. A native speaker would just say, "Can you help me?" Or, "I need some help." It's clear, direct, and natural. Adam, what's another way learners can train themselves to speak in shorter sentences?
Another great technique is shadowing short phrases. Step 1. Find a clip from a TV show, movie, or podcast. Step 2. Listen to how native speakers say things. Step 3. Repeat exactly what they say. For example, if you hear a character say, "Let's grab lunch," repeat it exactly the same way. Don't change it to, "Shall we go and have lunch together?" Just use the short, natural version. By imitating native speakers, you'll start thinking and speaking in shorter, more natural sentences. Sophia, should we give our listeners a challenge?
Yes. Here's your short sentence challenge for today. For the next 3 days, whenever you speak in English, challenge yourself to say things in the shortest way possible. If you catch yourself saying something too long, stop and simplify it. For example, instead of, "Would you happen to have any idea what time it is?" say, "What time is it?" Instead of, "I am unable to recall the name of that movie at this moment." Say, "I can't remember the movie name." By doing this, you'll train yourself to speak in short, clear sentences naturally. Adam, let's quickly summarize what we've learned today.
All right. Here's what we covered in this chapter. First, fluent speakers don't use long, complex sentences in conversations. They keep things short and simple. Second, textbook English is often too formal and structured for real-life conversations. Third, shorter sentences make it easier to speak quickly, sound natural, and communicate clearly. And finally, the best way to practice is to simplify your sentences, listen to native speakers, and copy the way they talk. All right, English learners. So far, we've talked about intonation, contractions, filler words, and using shorter sentences, all of which help you sound more fluent. But now, let's talk about one of the fastest and most effective techniques for improving your spoken English: shadowing. If you've ever wondered, how can I train my brain to think and speak in English faster? Or, how do I sound more natural when I talk? Then shadowing is the answer. Sophia, can you explain what shadowing is and why it's such a powerful tool for fluency?
Yes. Shadowing is a technique where you listen to a native speaker and repeat what they say immediately, copying their pronunciation, tone, and speed. Think of it as following the shadow of the speaker. You're not just repeating words, you're imitating the way native speakers talk. This helps with pronunciation, rhythm, and intonation. All the things that make spoken English sound smooth and natural. Let's say you're watching a YouTube video, and the speaker says, "Oh my God, that was amazing!" Your job is to immediately repeat it, copying the tone, rhythm, and speed exactly. Adam, why does shadowing work so well?
It works because it trains your brain and mouth to speak English automatically, without overthinking. Many learners struggle because they try to translate sentences in their head before speaking. But shadowing forces you to think in English and speak faster. It also helps fix pronunciation problems. When you repeat after a native speaker, you hear the correct way to say things and train your mouth to produce the sounds naturally. And here's the best part. You don't need a language partner to practice. You can do this alone, anytime, anywhere. Sophia, let's break down how learners can start practicing shadowing.
Absolutely. Here's how to do shadowing step by step. Step 1. Pick a short clip from a movie, podcast, or YouTube video. Choose something natural and conversational. Step 2. Listen to a sentence carefully. Pay attention to the speed, tone, and rhythm of the speaker. Step 3. Repeat the sentence immediately exactly like the speaker. Copy their pronunciation, speed, and emotion. Step 4. Keep going without stopping. Even if you don't understand every word, just keep repeating and mimicking the speaker. It's okay if you don't get it perfect at first. The goal is to train your brain and mouth to speak English naturally. Adam, do you have an example of a good clip for shadowing practice?
Yes. If you're just starting, choose a video or podcast with clear, natural speech. For example, you could practice with a short scene from a TV show or movie, a YouTube vlog where someone is speaking naturally, a podcast episode with conversational English. If you're a beginner, start with slow speech. If you're more advanced, try shadowing faster conversations. For example, if you watch a vlog and the speaker says, "Hey guys, so today we're going to the beach, and it's super sunny outside." You repeat immediately, "Hey guys, so today we're going to the beach, and it's super sunny outside." Try to match their tone, their energy, and their flow. Sophia, what's a good way to know if you're improving?
A great way is to record yourself while shadowing and compare it to the original speaker. Step 1. Record yourself shadowing a sentence. Step 2. Listen to both your version and the native speaker's version. Step 3. Notice the differences in pronunciation, speed, and intonation. Step 4. Repeat until you sound more natural. The first time you might sound a little stiff or slow, but with practice, you'll start matching the rhythm of native speakers. Adam, should we give our listeners a quick shadowing challenge?
Yes. Here's your shadowing challenge for today. Step 1. Find a short video, 30 seconds to 1 minute, from a movie, TV show, or YouTube vlog. Step 2. Listen to the first few sentences carefully. Step 3. Try repeating the sentences immediately after the speaker. Step 4. Do this at least 5 times until you sound more natural. Start with just a few sentences per day, and soon you'll notice that your speaking speed, pronunciation, and fluency improve dramatically. Sophia, let's quickly summarize what we've learned today.
Yes. Here's what we covered in this chapter. First, shadowing is the best way to improve fluency, pronunciation, and speaking speed. Second, it forces you to think in English and speak more naturally, without translating. Third, the key is to listen to native speakers and copy their rhythm, speed, and intonation.
All right, English learners. By now, you've learned how to use natural expressions, shorten your sentences, practice intonation, and improve pronunciation with shadowing. But none of that will help if you're not actually speaking every day. If you really want to sound fluent, you have to practice speaking daily. And I know what some of you are thinking, but I don't have a language partner. I feel nervous speaking English. I don't have time to practice every day. But here's the truth. You don't need a partner, a teacher, or a classroom to practice speaking. Sophia, why is it so important to speak every day, even if you're practicing alone?
Because fluency isn't just about knowing words and grammar. It's about training your mouth and brain to produce English automatically. Think about it like this. If you want to play the piano, do you just watch videos about piano playing? No. You have to sit down and actually play the piano every day. Speaking English is the same. You can't just listen and study. You have to speak. And here's the best part. You don't need a conversation partner to do this. You can practice speaking alone by talking to yourself. Adam, how can learners start doing this in their daily routine?
One of the easiest ways is narrating your actions. This means talking about what you're doing in English, even if you're alone. For example, if you're making coffee in the morning, instead of thinking in your native language, say, "I'm making coffee. It smells so good. I need some sugar. Where's my cup?" If you're walking outside, say, "It's so sunny today. The weather is nice. I can hear birds chirping." It doesn't have to be perfect. The goal is just to train your brain to think and speak in English constantly. Sophia, what's another way to practice speaking daily?
Another great method is the 1-minute speaking challenge. Here's how it works. 1. Pick a random topic, like my morning routine, my favorite movie, or what I did today. 2. Set a timer for 1 minute. 3. Talk non-stop for 1 full minute without pausing. It doesn't matter if you make mistakes, just keep speaking. If you don't know a word, describe it. If you forget something, use a filler phrase like, let me think. This helps you train your brain to think in English quickly and speak without hesitation. Adam, what's another great way to add speaking practice into a daily routine?
One of my favorite methods is recording yourself. Many learners avoid this because they feel awkward listening to their own voice, but it's one of the most powerful ways to improve your speaking skills. Here's how you can do it. 1. Pick a topic and record yourself speaking for 1 or 2 minutes. 2. Listen to the recording and notice areas where you can improve. Are you pausing too much? Are you speaking too fast? 3. Try again and improve with each recording. By doing this, you'll start to notice patterns in your speech, correct mistakes, and track your progress over time. Sophia, what can learners do if they feel too shy or nervous to speak every day?
That's a great question. Many learners feel nervous about speaking because they're afraid of making mistakes. But here's the thing. Mistakes are a good thing. They mean you're learning. If you feel too shy, start small. Instead of speaking in full sentences, just practice saying individual words or phrases out loud. For example, if you're learning new vocabulary, don't just read the words. Say them out loud. Instead of writing down sentences in your notebook, speak them. The more you hear your own voice in English, the more confident you'll become. Adam, should we give our listeners a challenge to help them start speaking every day?
Yes. Here's your 7-day speaking challenge. For the next 7 days, do one speaking activity every day. You can choose. Day 1. Narrate your actions while cooking, cleaning, or walking. Day 2. Do the 1-minute speaking challenge on any topic. Day 3. Record yourself speaking for 2 minutes and listen to your pronunciation. Day 4. Repeat sentences from a podcast or movie using the shadowing technique. Day 5. Describe 5 things you see around you, out loud. Day 6. Tell a short story from your life in English. Day 7. Have a simple conversation with a friend, tutor, or language partner. If you do this for a full week, you'll feel more confident, think faster in English, and notice a huge improvement in your fluency.
That's it for today's episode. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you in the next one.
Take care and happy learning.